Welcome back. As the nation prepares for the inauguration of Donald Trump and his return to the White House, many people are also watching what that inauguration and the incoming administration means for them. One of those areas most impacted, immigration and enforcement at the local, state, and federal levels. Joining us now is Illinois State Senator Terri Bryant. Good to have you back with us.
Good to be here. I always love being on your show.
In Missouri, the incoming governor is deputizing local and state law enforcement to assist in the enforcement of federal immigration law. What do you expect to see in Illinois?
Well, and as long as we have the Trust Act, I would anticipate that law enforcement is going to have a very difficult time cooperating with ICE without violating Illinois state law. So that's why last year I filed a bill to repeal the Trust Act. It goes so deep that, I'm retired from the Department of Corrections. The Department of Corrections cannot even notify ICE if they have a known illegal immigrant who's going to be paroling or maxing out and leaving an Illinois prison. So they're prohibited from notifying ICE.
At the date of the inauguration for the House and Senate, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said this. He said that people who are here illegally, who have committed a violent crime while they're here, should be deported.
That's new for him. That's a new statement that he's making. He hasn't always said that. And I suspect they've done some polling and found out that the vast majority of Illinoisans and the vast majority of Americans believe that that should happen, as does President Trump. Those felons that are here who violated our laws beyond just being here illegally, where they have committed felonies, they've got to go. And that poll's very high. So I think Pritzker, who trusts polls, has seen that that's the case.
There are people who were either brought here as kids, who maybe have a speeding ticket or something, and then there are people who have moved here illegally. They maybe as adults, and they've been here for 20 or 30 years, raising kids, having adjoining families. How do you hope to see a Republican administration treat people in this predicament?
Well, the first thing we have to do is fix it federally. The state of Illinois can't fix what is a federal immigration problem.
Sure, I understand, but
and I've always been I've been a supporter of some kind of pathway to citizenship, but that pathway to citizenship would have to be leaving and coming back again. For those that you're talking about, which are usually referenced as dreamers, they may have been brought here. They may never have don't even have any memory of living in another country, don't even speak the language of whatever that country was. We're smart people. We can find a way to have them register in a way. I mean, there's all kinds of things that have been thrown out there.
But the fix at Congress, at the congressional level, would have to speed up the line, because there are people that have been here waiting 10 years, 15 years just to get a green card.
There are people who are here from India and Pakistan who might be architects or doctors who may not get their green card in their lifetime. So, they're talking, those folks that I've talked to said that they're going to wait 70 to 80 years before they would even be eligible for a green card. And that's because we have quotas right now. So you have individuals who are coming who have totally ignored whatever our quotas are and come in slamming down the back door when you have people who came in through the front door trying to do it right, and they may never get a green card.
Do you see value, economic, social, or otherwise, in immigrants who are here, even if they don't have the proper papers? Do you see value in their presence here?
No, I think we are a people of law. So you have to follow the laws as they're written. I do think that there are laws that we can change that would allow them to become citizens in time. But keeping someone here whose first act was to violate our laws is not the right way to do it.
Well, you're assuming intent in arriving here. I think, I'll tell you a story. I was with a group of nuns, church ladies, who were attending an immigrant advocacy group this week at a former school, the International Institute in St. Louis, and they advocate for people who are in this position. And they point to the fact that, look, many of these folks pay into Social Security with no promise that they'll ever see that check on the other side of retirement. They pay their sales taxes, they pay all kinds of taxes. They're here, they're part of the economy, they're spending money, which is creating economic activity. And they're also helping, these advocates are plugging many of these people into food benefits in some cases. You've got a plan in Illinois, you're highlighting the cost of some of these benefits.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're looking at a cost for fiscal year 25, that is nearly $1 billion. And the majority of that cost goes to Medicaid for illegal immigrants, asylum seekers, whatever the individual who's talking about it wants to call that other individual, where citizens of Illinois have what's called a managed care system. So they have to pay a spend down. They've got to they got to have pre-approval for where they're going to go to which doctor and what hospital. But those who are illegal immigrants in a certain age frame, they're fee for service. So they don't have to be pre-approved. They don't have a spend down. There's not even means testing in many cases. So that is not right for the people of Illinois.
The total dollar amount there
right now is well over $880 million, so nearly $1 billion.
Health care for people who are
part of it is health care. Part of it is welcoming centers, which are benefits for only illegal immigrants.
Those were more one-time costs, if I'm not mistaken, in constructing some of those welcoming centers. But let's set aside
no, they're not one-time costs. They're one time per year. So I was elected in 2015. That was $35,000 a year. We are now up to $115 million going to welcome centers.
And I believe a lot of that funding comes from the federal government through the state of Illinois too.
Some of that was CURES money, but we also have millions and millions of dollars of GRF money, so General Revenue Fund.
Yeah, that's just tax dollars from
Correct.
Illinois. I want to ask you about the healthcare piece. You said $800 million. I think you're suggesting that the number for healthcare is somewhat lower than that, but in that $800 million is a lot of healthcare money. What would be the cost, do you think, the alternative cost, if that healthcare was not provided? The cost of the healthcare system, if you don't treat somebody, the problem doesn't go away, right?
Well, that's true, but that's assuming that the person is not being deported. Right? So what our conversation is whether or not that person is legally here. So would we have to treat them while they're here? Yes, possibly. But in Illinois, the situation that we have is it's a sanctuary state, and Governor Pritzker has rolled out the red carpet for them. So even if someone needs a kidney transplant, they can come to Illinois and get a kidney transplant, and they might be put ahead of someone who is a U.S. citizen or an Illinois citizen over a citizen who is here. Those are the things that I'm saying are not right. I'm not saying that we shouldn't help people. I'm saying that if they're here illegally, we need to find the means to get them appropriately through the front door of immigration rather than coming through the back door.
Do I understand your proposal correctly, that it would deny all health insurance to people in Illinois that do not have legal citizenship? Or immigration status.
Yeah, if they don't have a legal immigration status, I mean, you go to a hospital in Illinois, yes, you're going to be treated, right? But at the same time, that person, if it's identified that that person is here illegally, then deportation process should begin.
You think the hospital should report them?
I think anybody who knows that someone is here illegally should be reporting them.
I'm trying to see, I'm looking for consistency in the positions here, because even President Trump has more recently softened some of his campaign rhetoric to say we're really going after the criminals, the violent criminals.
He says that's where we're starting.
So you expect it will go beyond that?
Well, I think it's going to take us decades.
I should have mentioned at the start of this, you plan to be at the inauguration.
I do, yeah, I do. In fact, I'm leaving tomorrow morning. Thursday morning.
Right.
So it will take us decades to sort all of this out, because of the number of people that we've allowed to cross the border, whether it's the southern border or the northern border, because let's face it, they're coming across the northern border as well. And the last report that I read showed that the folks on the terrorist watch list that have been caught, I believe, came across the northern border, the majority. So regardless of that, I'm saying that we have to start somewhere. So let's start with the low-hanging fruit, and low-hanging fruit are those that have committed felonies.
Neither of them are here right now, but both Governor Pritzker and Senator Dick Durbin, two prominent Democrats in Illinois, have acknowledged that in the last year or two, some of the benefits, healthcare and otherwise, that were set up for people who are here illegally, the cost ballooned to be a burden too great. And they both publicly acknowledged we've got to pare that back. In their own differing ways, they've suggested as much. So perhaps there's some pathway to common ground there. But while you're here, I want to get your input on another idea. You're familiar with the Fight for 51, this Southern Illinois secessionist movement that wants to break up with the state. It's kind of an before we get into where all this is heading, for any of our viewers that may know, there are some Indiana Republicans rather, that have said, hey, we'll take you. And there can be kind of like a rearrangement of the states here. Let's put this in its proper perspective first. How likely is any of this to ever happen?
I don't think it may happen in Indiana. They may actually pass their resolution, and they might actually get that commission put together with 4
saber-rattling with Governor Pritzker? Was it just...
I think so. I mean, I believe that the commission would consist of 4 Indiana legislators and 4 Illinois legislators.
To look at the issue.
Yes, appointed by the governor. I don't see Governor Pritzker appointing 4 Illinois legislators to allow part of Illinois to secede from Illinois, nor do I want to piecemeal or break up the state of Illinois. I want to fix the problems here. I don't want to break off pieces of Illinois.
Breakup is an interesting term because it would be a breakup, and I'm not sure it's a good deal for Southern Illinois to. So,
well, Southern Illinois probably would prefer to go to Kentucky or Missouri. Northern Illinois certainly would prefer to.
We're going to handle that real quick.
Sorry. Okay.
You just never know what you might get.
I'm so sorry. Northern Illinois has talked about going to Indiana. Now, my birth certificate says that I was born in Indiana, right? So I don't know which, and my dad's family comes from Kentucky. So I understand the frustration of Illinoisans all over the state who don't like the policies of Illinois.
The last time a United State, splintered off and went its own way was in 1863, when Abraham Lincoln himself was in the White House. It was West Virginia breaking off from Virginia during the Civil War. And now we have the land of Lincoln, a number of rabble-rousers, if I can call them that, trying to say we're going to split off part of the state here. The problem would become, say this were like a marriage and there was a divorce, it would be it's not like you break up and get this great payment, this lump sum. You'd actually be stuck without the place, the economic engine of the state that's been paying into it. So
that's kind of what I tell people is I said, you make sure that you understand the economics of what you're pushing for. Because for every $1 that Southern Illinois sends to Springfield, we get about $3 back for schools. So for each $1 for schools.
Public education, higher education.
Whichever, yeah. And
Both,
so if the people who should be angry about what happens are the suburbs of Chicago. For every $1 they send to Springfield for their schools, they get about 30 cents back, give or take, right? So I would say the frustration level in any place south of I-80 is very high, and it isn't that I don't think they really want to separate from any parts of Illinois, break those parts off, but they do want to have a louder voice. I represent all or parts of 14 counties. Between Senator Fowler and I, we have 28 of 102 counties, and we often feel like we're not heard.
Fair to say, so I think you just answered my question. Is it fair to say that a vast segment of Central and Southern Illinois feels underrepresented in Springfield?
I would say so. You have between myself, Plummer, Fowler, and Chapin Rose, we represent about 52 of the 102 counties.
Sparsely populated.
Four senators.
Rural counties.
4 out of 59 represent half of the counties in the state.
But we apportion votes by people.
By population.
And so how do you change that? And when I say change that, I mean how do you give those people in those scattered counties the sense that, hey, we're getting something out of this being in Illinois?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to have a governor who listens to the entire state. I don't find that Governor Pritzker listens to the entire state. He does come down and he makes some stops and he cuts some ribbons and he makes a show of listening to Southern Illinois.
On a factual basis, he's been in Southern Illinois a heck of a lot
He's there
more than
a lot.
Pat Quinn did, than Rob Blagojevich did.
No question about that. More than Rauner was there. He's been there quite a bit. But when you start looking at how, let's say, DCEO, so that's the organization that kind of doles out the money for economic growth and so forth. You might find, I'm going to pick some numbers out, so these are not going to be exact, but you may find 300 projects approved for the Chicago area and 1 approved for the Carbondale area. So when you start looking at those, I'll give you a perfect example. There was a grant. I want some geographic grant money. So I want a geographic component when you're talking about handing out grants. So there was one for blind seniors a few years ago. 150 in Marion, 150 blind seniors in Carbondale, so Jackson and Williamson County, 400 in St. Clair. They decided to take all the grant money and send it all to St. Clair County. So 700, and they're looking at it and saying, well, we have enough to do 700 people, we're going to do them in St. Clair. I said, well, how are our people supposed to get there? They said, public transportation. Great, we don't have public transportation. If you do, you have to go by county, and you have to make your reservation 24 hours in advance. So a blind senior has to get to St. Clair County from Alexander County. That's practically a 2.5-hour ride through multiple counties, and you got to make those plans 24 hours ahead. That's just an example.
I'm hearing that you have a long list of things that you'd like to find funding for, but we're going to have to leave it here for now.
Yeah,
But,
I'm just asking for a geographic component to the grants.
I hear you. And that would be a part of the puzzle in Southern Illinois, feeling like they were a part of the bigger pie.
I think so.
State Senator Terri Bryant, safe travels to Washington, D.C., and we hope to see you back again on the other side of it.
Thank you. I'll be back to give you a full report.
We're back in a moment.